I'm Polly Warren and welcome to the Positive Perimenopause podcast. This is the place for some positive inspiration to help you through the rollercoaster ride of perimenopause. I truly believe that with the right support, knowledge and wellness tools, you can feel your best yet, because I'm learning this life phase can be a truly exciting and often pivotal time of life. With every episode, my mission is to support and empower you to own your menopause, because it's time to start taking care of the most important person, and yes, that's you. So thank you for being here and sharing your time with me. Now let's dive in. Hello and welcome back to the podcast with me, Polly Warren. So this week, I'm going to share with you some of the workshop which I had last week, which was all about reducing and even eliminating some of your menopause symptoms. You've probably heard me shout about it. You might have even got an email about it, but I was so delighted to do it. And it was great to see some of you there. So thank you if you did attend. But I wanted to share some of it on here because I think some of that content really is so valuable. And some of the things which I talk about, perhaps you don't know. I have edited a bit, so I've taken out where when we interact with each other, because obviously if you're not watching it and you weren't there, that's not very interesting for you. But I think you'll get the general gist of it. I really do hope you enjoy it. And at the end, I talk about my brand new group coaching program, which is called Menopause, because it's all about transforming your menopause. And I'm now taking, for the next couple of weeks, registrations to this. Now, this program, it's a 10-week coaching program, which will start at the beginning of November. There'll be a 2-week break over Christmas. So there'll be 4 weeks in January, which is a really brilliant time to keep things on track and to have that support and that accountability. This program really will be amazing for anybody who really feels like you just want to get your mojo back. That feeling you might have of feeling flat and empty. I remember that so well. And this will really help with that. It will also help if you are struggling with real irritation and anger at your loved ones and not being able to keep that in check. Again, I totally had that for so many years. Ultimately, it will help you get the joy back into your life so that you can start enjoying it again. And I know by the end of the 10 weeks, you will feel completely different to how you feel now. Okay, I'll stop talking now. Here is the rest of the episode. So before we start, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about me if you don't know me already. So first and foremost, I'm a mum of 3, and here are my kids. This is actually quite an old picture, but I don't know if any of you are the same, but it's really, really hard in my family to try and find a photograph of all 5 of us. So this was taken a couple of years ago. But anyway, I'm a mum and I absolutely love my job as a mum. But at the moment as well, I have a podcast called the Positive Perimenopause Podcast, and I am a menopause coach. And I've never felt better, and I haven't enjoyed life as much as I am at the moment. I've got a relentless passion for wellness. You really just have to have a look at my bookshelf. This is just one small portion of my bookshelf, to see what a geek I am. I love trying any new wellness tools. I love the outdoors. But I didn't always feel this way, and particularly kind of towards the end of my 30s and in the beginning of my 40s. And if you've listened to my podcast at all and you've listened to that first episode, I kind of go into details of my story of what has brought me here today to do the work I do at the moment. But just a really quick kind of overview of it. Basically, I used to be a primary school teacher. My kids were small and I suddenly found myself really struggling. I started experiencing really terrible night sweats, all my joints hurt. I was suddenly hit with really terrible anxiety and low mood, which is something I'd never really experienced before. And yet I didn't tell anybody. I was very emotional, and it was really my poor family who got the brunt of it. And it took me about 4 years of kind of trudging on like this. And it was only when I discovered that there was a reason for it, that it was actually my hormones and perimenopause and a whole host of different reasons, that I became so enraged about it. I was so cross that I didn't know that it's kind of led me to where I am today. I went on a real pathway of finding everything out about menopause. I did numerous courses. I read a load of books. I ended up doing lots of health coaching certifications. I trained in meditation and mindfulness. I have become a practitioner in something called emotional freedom technique, and matrix reimprinting, which are all to do with kind of revisiting old trauma and looking at limiting beliefs. So I kind of just went on a massive journey at the same time as teaching, but to really try and understand what was going on. And I absolutely loved it. And I've ended up finding that I was coaching my friend through it anyway, through menopause and perimenopause. So I decided to take the plunge and do it full time. And that is what I'm doing today. And, I think it's just so important that we just keep having this conversation and talking through it. Lisa, you're very sweet, saying my podcast is brilliant. Thank you. Okay, so before I go into it, I just feel it's really important to know a little bit about what is happening during perimenopause and menopause, because there is a lot going on. So here's a little graph, which hopefully will make it a little bit clearer. So basically, from the age of 35, so this bit here are our fertile years. This is when we're pre-menopause, and from the age of about 35, but obviously everyone is different, our progesterone levels start to fall. So this black line here shows our progesterone, and the blue line here shows our estrogen. Now, these are hormones which are really vital to us in so many different ways. So the progesterone is the first one to start declining. And when we have signs of low progesterone, we're more prone to things like mood swings, becoming more irritable. Our periods get heavier. We might get some sort of insomnia and anxiety. So when this really hit me hard, I think this is when I was in my low 30s. I had all of those symptoms. Now, our hormones, estrogen and progesterone, think back to your biology lessons, they kind of work together. They have a symbiotic relationship. And because they don't decline at the same rate, the ratio between these two hormones becomes out of whack. So because the progesterone starts to fall first during perimenopause, it's quite common for us to become estrogen dominant, for us to actually have too much estrogen, and that causes a whole load of other symptoms. The brain fog, more mood swings, low libido, real exhaustion, really sore boobs. My God, I remember those. And then in addition to this, the estrogen doesn't fall at a sort of a nice steady rate. It's fluctuating. It's all over the place. And that causes more of the symptoms. So this is when, you might notice a change to your periods, but you might not. So this is why it can be quite confusing, because you can still have regular periods even if you're not perimenopausal. So perimenopause can last up to 10 years, I know, but it doesn't have to be horrendous, okay? You don't need to struggle through if you're well prepared. The average age of menopause in the Western world is 51 years old, and literally menopause is a moment in time. It's the moment after you've not had a period for a year, and it's that moment afterwards. And anything after that, you are postmenopausal. And nowadays, we are likely to spend about a third of our life postmenopausal. So that is, that's quite a lot of our lives. So it's really important for us to get ourselves feeling well again. So looking back at that graph, that is really quite a big reason for our symptoms, but it's not the only reason for our symptoms. And I think lots of us don't know this. So it's the reason, the fluctuation and the decline of our sex hormones is a reason why we get some of these symptoms. And if you're 35 and over, it is highly likely that you are experiencing this natural fluctuation and decline of your symptoms. However, studies show that up to 80% of women are short of important nutrients by the time they hit midlife. And so many of us are actually nutritionally depleted. And food is so important because it provides the nutrients we need to keep healthy. And that includes the production, the metabolism, and the detoxification of our hormones. And if that doesn't happen efficiently, then we feel the effects. So it's a big reason why we experience some of our symptoms, which I don't think many people really understand. And the third reason is we are full of cortisol. We have too much cortisol in our body. Now, we know how stressful midlife can be. We are pulled in every single direction, and cortisol is the main stress hormone. Cortisol is very necessary to keep us safe. So let's not totally dismiss it. It's the reason for our survival since the beginning of time. But unfortunately, because of the way we now live, which is in a very stressful world, many of us just have too much of it, and we just don't know how, we don't ever turn it off. And this plays havoc with the production of our other hormones, because as we go through menopause and our ovaries stop producing the estrogen, the progesterone, and the testosterone that we need, it's our adrenal glands on top of our kidneys which take over this job. So this, unfortunately, is the same place that our stress hormones are released from. And the body always prioritizes survival. So it will always release the stress hormones in place of our sex hormones. So it is a huge aggravator of perimenopause symptoms. So I hope that makes sense. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to tell you the solutions to these three reasons for our symptoms. So the first problem which we talked about, so this is obviously the natural fluctuation and decline of our sex hormones. Now, the solution we've got here is to eat more phytoestrogens throughout the day. Now, you might be going, what the hell is she talking about? I'm going to go into this. But I've put HRT in brackets here because HRT is the solution to this particular problem. Okay. And I just want to kind of recognize that, because I'm all about pro-choice, and I really believe that every woman needs to be well informed about all the different solutions to menopause and to what they're experiencing. HRT can be used to complement any lifestyle changes. And I do think sometimes we have to move away from the idea that we've got to cope and get on with it. And we've just got to stop seeing HRT as a failure to cope and look at it really instead as one of the many possible strategies that can be used to help through menopause. So it's just about being informed, and then you can decide whether it's best for you or not. Okay. And if you do choose to have HRT, make sure you go for the body identical one that's made from wild yams. It's got the same chemical structure as our own hormones in your body. And the risks are actually quite low, but it's obviously you have to weigh it up, and always make sure you go and discuss it with a doctor or a menopause specialist. So just make sure you're informed. But one thing which we can all do, and if you're taking HRT or not, it is still recommended to do, to eat more phytoestrogen. So what is a phytoestrogen? Well, they are natural compounds found in plants and plant-based foods. They, when they are eaten, they affect a person in a very, very similar way as the estrogen produced in the body. So they're really quite magical, but it is a weaker level of estrogen. So when the phytoestrogens enter the body's estrogen receptors treat them as if they were actually estrogen. So they can be really, really helpful to balance your hormone levels. And some people call them a natural form of HRT because they mimic estrogen. So the way to get these into you is to include phytoestrogen rich foods throughout the day. The important thing is that they need to be consumed throughout the day. Now, if you eat a lot of soy products like tofu, tempeh, edamame beans, soy milk, soy yogurts, you are there, because those foods are super rich in phytoestrogen. Lots of vegetables also include phytoestrogens, but the ones which are most rich are the soy products, as well as linseed or flaxseed, depending where you live. It seems to be, it's the same thing, it has a different name. Now, I've put here, for each one of these, I'm giving you a practical, actionable tip, which you can do straight away, which should be super easy. And my tip for this solution, and this will make a difference, is to go and get yourself some ground linseed. And I buy mine from, I buy it online actually from, it's called the Linseed Farm. And you can store it in the fridge for up to 3 months. And I literally put 2 heaped teaspoons on some yogurt, in a smoothie. You can put it in a drink, but it is so good at providing these phytoestrogens, and it will really help to keep these hormones balanced. So, Fiona, you've said ground linseeds and soy yogurt every morning has really helped me. There you go. It is a real game changer. But what the research suggests is, rather than just having it once a day, if you can have it 3 times a day, so lunch, breakfast, lunch and dinner, that will really help you keep those estrogen levels throughout the day. Lisa, brilliant. You've used it as well. Hilma, you mix it into your morning porridge. Amazing. That's great. So you guys are on it. This is fantastic. Okay, so on to problem number 2. Now, few women reach their mid-40s in a good place nutritionally, which when I learnt this, I couldn't believe it. Studies show that up to 80% of us are short of nutrients such as zinc, magnesium, calcium, iron, vitamin D, B vitamins, essential fatty acids, and a very quick break to ask you to hit the follow or subscribe button if you haven't already. And if you're enjoying this episode, I'd be super grateful if you could hit those stars and rate it too. Thank you. This really does affect how we feel, and it really, really causes a lot and aggravates a lot of these symptoms. And this isn't our fault, by the way, so we can't beat ourselves up about it. Often we are depleted at midlife for a variety of reasons. The general life load of life. If you've had children, and particularly if you've breastfed your children, we become really depleted. If you think everything is sort of sucked out of us, and it's very difficult to kind of replenish all of those nutrients unless you really start supplementing massively when you are, once you've had your baby. Because let's face it, when you have a baby, that's really when the fun begins, and you're exhausted, and it's hard work. Plus, the food we eat at the moment in today's world, unfortunately, is grown in soil which is not the quality that it used to be, which means that the food isn't as high in nutrients as it used to be. So we're not getting these important nutrients like we should. And plus, nowadays, there's so many processed food options, and we don't eat such a varied diet that we're not getting these essential nutrients. I'm just having a look at the chat. So, look, Fiona, a cheap way to do the whole linseed, to get the linseeds and grind them into the NutriBullet. Yeah, I like that. Magnesium's been such a game changer for you, Mita. I'm so pleased. It really is. So what we need to do is we need to get these missing nutrients back into our bodies. So there's 2 ways of doing this. We can do it through food. So that's eating a range of foods from different food groups. Now, we can do that, and we can make a real commitment to ourselves to do that. And actually, my tip to take with you today is to try and to get 30 different plants in your week. So this includes eating the rainbow. It includes nuts, seeds, grains, herbs, anything which is a plant. And actually, if you make like a pesto with lots of different herbs, it's easier than you think to try and do that. But much as we try, it's not always possible to consume all the nutrients we need by diet alone. So sometimes it's necessary, and I would really recommend, if you are suffering at perimenopausal symptoms, to start taking a really good multivitamin and to try and replenish some of these nutrients. Now, just a word here, not all supplements contain what they say on the label. So it's really important to buy products that have been through clinical trials and have been shown to be, both safe and effective. Make sure you look for products that have been certified by a third testing party, okay, a third party testing company like NSF. So that's the National Science Foundation. And obviously make sure you look at the ingredients to make sure they're not full of complete crap. So if you're taking any medications, do please check before you take a supplement. Check with your doctor to make sure it doesn't interfere with those medications. All right, let's move on to the next one. So the third problem. Now, this is the big, meaty, juicy one. This one I've had to really cut back. I had too many slides on this problem because cortisol is a very real thing, and reducing cortisol levels is probably one of the most important things we need to do at perimenopause and going through into menopause. And there are so many reasons, as we've discussed. And we said, we are pulled in so many different directions at this stage of life. Children, work, we're often really busy with work at this stage. We might have elderly parents who we are needing to care for. Just going through menopause itself can be a really quite stressful situation. And this whole societal narrative of getting older and how it's perceived, which is so ingrained into us, is also something which can be really very stressful. So what can we do? Because we do need to reduce this stress. It really interferes with our hormone production, and it is the biggest problem for inflammation. And inflammation in the body goes on to cause numerous other diseases as well. So you've all heard it before. We need to prioritize self-care. Now, I'm going to say it. I know everyone's like, I know that, which is why I've put boundaries in place. Boundaries are so key to be able to prioritize self-care, because we are notoriously rubbish at putting ourselves first. We do everything for everybody else. And when it comes to doing something for us, we kind of go, oh, it's okay, I'm not going to do it. So that is why we need to learn to have boundaries. And it's something I really love working with people on, because you can learn to put boundaries in place. And self-care doesn't have to be necessarily going off and having a massage or a foot rub, which obviously is very, very lovely, but it can be just something which lights you up, something you love. It could be singing in a choir or going for a walk or gardening, whatever it might be. Exercise I've put here, because I did actually have a whole separate slide for exercise, because it is such a key part of keeping well and healthy at this stage of life. But in terms of reducing cortisol levels, it's one of the most efficient strategies for signaling to your body that it's safe to turn off the stress response. And I think so often these days we get stuck in a constant grade of stress going on, that the stress response never gets a chance to turn off. But actually, if you go and exercise and you have a bit of a sweat, at the end of it, it tells your body to turn that stress response off. You get that lovely rush of endorphins, and it is going to really help reduce cortisol levels in your body. And this other bit I've put here about mastering your mindset is probably one of the most important things I think we can do. I think a lot of us don't appreciate how detrimental our brain chatter is. Every time we think a negative thought, that creates a feeling in our body, and those feelings create a chemical release in the brain. So if you just think about eating, for example, a juicy, delicious strawberry, that thought alone can make your mouth water. It's amazing. It's so powerful. Our thoughts are so powerful. But the same happens when we have negative thoughts. Rather than having really lovely feelings, often what happens is our body has a chemical reaction and we produce cortisol. And amazing statistic is that we have 60,000 thoughts a day on average. And 70 to 80% of those thoughts are negative. I know, it's a lot, isn't it? And 90% are repeating themselves every day. So that's 60,000 thoughts. 70 to 80% of those are negative and 90% are repeating every day. That's a lot of cortisol in our body, and we get addicted to it. But the good news is we can take control of our mind chatter, and it starts with awareness. It starts with training your brain to become aware of these thoughts so that you can detach from them. And this way you become so much more in control of everything, how you react to situations. I know since I've been doing this, I am such a better parent. I'm such a better wife, friend, everything because of this. It kind of gives you a sense of freedom from all of those insecurities and old patterns which are constantly repeating themselves. Now, there are so many tools which I could teach you to get this started, and you might already have a really kind of ingrained practice to help with this. But if you don't, my tip to you to get this started, and this will make a big difference, is to set an alarm every hour and notice where your thoughts are. So I started off doing this. So I'd set my phone, set the alarm, and when it would go off, I would just stop and go, oh my gosh, what am I thinking about? And quite often I would be ruminating on something which just wasn't helpful at all. And at that moment, just try and notice it, appreciate it, go, God, isn't that interesting? Look at it with curiosity. And maybe see if you can just reach for a kind of a more positive thought. You know, that it's a really good way to pattern interrupt where your thoughts are, and it will make a difference to how you're feeling. I promise you, it is a great step to just feeling more in control. Okay, brilliant. Let's move on. So I have got one more solution to these problems, and I couldn't really leave this one out because when we think about cortisol, we often think about the stress of the external stress of life. But as I've just said, the internal stress is very real when it comes to our thoughts, but also in terms of what is happening with our blood sugar. So balancing blood sugar is another, I said it's probably one of the most important things. It's another really important thing we can do to help with our menopause symptoms at this stage of life, because imbalanced blood sugar causes havoc with our hormones. Now, I'm not going to bore you to death with another graph, but I think it's important to know what is going on. So you will see here, very simply, the green zone here is where our blood sugar levels really need to be so that we're feeling balanced, so that everything is working as it should. However, often what happens first thing in the morning, we will have a cup of coffee, maybe a piece of toast, something quite carby and sugary. And what it does immediately is it spikes our blood sugar. And when that happens, our body releases insulin, which is brilliant because it takes the blood sugar out, sends it over to the liver, and it should bring the blood sugar back into the safety zone. Unfortunately, though, the insulin doesn't carefully calculate the amount of blood sugar to remove from your blood. It just hoovers up the whole lot. So the higher the spike in blood sugar, the bigger the crash. So you can see what happens if you've got a spike. Often what happens, you then get a big crash in blood sugar. And this is when you can feel really cranky. You might get really irritable. You get that real hangry mood swing kind of energy crash feeling. And when this happens, that our good friend cortisol comes along, it tells the liver, right, state of emergency, we've got to release some sugar stores. So the liver releases sugar stores. Also, the cortisol produces a really powerful craving. So you go and grab maybe another cup of coffee or a sugary snack. So what happens? You get another massive spike in blood sugar and you are back on this roller coaster. So you can see that once you're on this roller coaster, it's very difficult to get off, and you're constantly having cortisol being released throughout the day every time you have a blood sugar crash. So it's really important that we get on top of this. So what is the solution? Well, the good news is it's very similar to the phytoestrogen solution. Because if we eat a whole foods Mediterranean style diet, we will with plenty of fibre and protein, we will really keep our blood sugar balanced. Okay, so protein obviously is meat, but just be careful with red meat because that can cause inflammation. But anything with eggs, fish, particularly oily fish, pulses, nuts, seeds, all are full of protein. The real protein kings and queens, because they're complete proteins, they're the only complete plant proteins, are quinoa and soya products. So those soya products, again, are really, really helpful. So what you can do is try and eat a little bit of protein with every meal, and it will really, really help. So those are my main solutions. I'm really delighted that hopefully you're feeling inspired to committing to some of these. However, I do want to share something with you that you might not be aware of. So if you don't manage to stick to these, you're not going to beat yourself up. And we are so good at beating ourselves up. But also, as we can see, some people have started something and then they stopped. And what I've shared with you today is everything that you need to do. So it's the actions that you need to take. And hopefully you're feeling really inspired to do these actions. But the catch is, it can feel tricky to keep up with it. So this is kind of like, we're going to take the supplements, we're going to reduce the blood sugar, we're going to eat more healthily, we're going to include more things. And I want to tell you this because I don't want you to beat yourself up if you can't stick to it. But I also want to share with you why we don't get always what we want. I want to help you understand why you might find it tricky and how you can make it much, much easier. So most people's approach to creating change in their life tends to look like this. We decide what we want, we set some goals, and then we go, right, we're going to work towards those goals. And then we set out to take the action. And we keep asking ourselves, right, what is it I need to do to make this happen, to get the result that we desire? The emphasis is all on what we need to do. However, the problem is we are relying on motivation, and motivation always wanes. It's not reliable. Think about New Year. We all get so excited about a new year. We all sign up to go to the gym. We're all there first 3 weeks, but the motivation always wanes. And then the gyms are pretty much back to how they always are about 3 weeks later. The truth is, we're trying to create change to what we desire by asking the wrong question. What we actually need to ask is, who do I need to be to get the desired results? And this is going to help us to get them. So, because when you keep trying to create something different from who you are right now, your efforts will fall short, or you won't be able to consistently step into what you really desire. You're going to just keep getting the same results. Nothing changes if nothing changes. The transformation that we all crave is going to come from shifting from the inside. So think about, how you change the reflection in a mirror. You make that reflection change. So it's about asking yourself, who do I need to be? So it's a new way of being, and we get the desired results. I want to show you this because this makes it really clear that the actions that you take or you don't take are actually being driven by who you're being. So your beliefs, your thoughts, your feelings. Notice how your actions are just a tiny piece of the desired result, and it's entirely influenced by who you're being. So our beliefs are thoughts that are repeated so often that they just become cemented in our mind. They get habitually reinforced by messages we hear during childhood, and they can be conscious or subconscious. And many times we're just not even aware of how profoundly they are impacting our thoughts and our feelings and our actions. So, these beliefs often might be things like just not feeling good enough. It might be that you just don't want to upset anyone. So that's why you don't have good boundaries in place. So it's really, really important that we think about who we are being. It's about really focusing on our mindset to get these results that we so want. Mindset can really take you back to being that sort of more aligned, amazing person you really are and help you get these results. Plus, also, a lot of the changes we need to make during menopause are how we perceive it and how we perceive ourselves. This mindset part of who we are being is such a huge part to be able to reduce these symptoms and to feeling, great as we age. But there's also one last piece to really getting these results that you want, which we've talked about today, because it's difficult doing everything on your own. And menopause can be such a lonely place. And this part is all about getting the support and accountability out there. I love this research which tells us that if you commit to somebody, that you're going to do something. So say you're going to commit to me that you are going to include 30 variety of foods, of plants into your diet in this week. You are 65% more likely to do it just because you've told someone. But if you add to that, if you make an appointment, you've got an appointment with someone to check in, that increases to 95% of you following through. So that is huge. So that really is, I just wanted to show that because that is the absolute key to getting long-lasting, sustainable results, which is going to transform the way you feel your menopause. I don't know, I want you now just to have a little thing. I want to just go back to where you might be now. It can be very overwhelming. You might be feeling, hopefully you're feeling a little bit more motivated after this, but your relationships might be strained. You might be feeling really stressed to the max and feeling stuck. But I know where you can be. You can feel more in control. You can feel inspired to take action. You can feel happier, more productive and feeling good most of the time. I know because I have gone to this. I have been where you might be now to this, and it is absolutely possible. So I just want you for a moment, I'm going to just want you to sit back, maybe close your eyes, and I just really want you to feel into feeling like your most energized, healthy, vibrant, confident self. How would that feel? How does it make you feel? Just really feel into that. Does it make your shoulders kind of want to drop? Does it mean you just want to sort of take a big sigh of relief? How would it feel, to know that you're taking the steps towards your future health as well? And how would it impact your loved ones? The people who you love, how would it affect your work? Would you be more productive at work if you're feeling energized, you're not feeling so stressed out, you're taking charge of your work? I know that it is absolutely possible to transform your menopause to the most positive experience ever. And I so want that for you too. I guarantee that those 5 actions I've given you today will make a difference, but they are only a piece of the puzzle. So I want you just to imagine, what if you had the whole puzzle? You showed up today for a reason. You showed up, even though you're incredibly busy, you showed up for a specific reason, because you're not feeling as good as you want to feel. And don't just brush it under the carpet and go, oh, no, I'm fine. Because you're obviously not. You showed up because you're not feeling 100%. And we deserve to feel 100%. You deserve to feel 100%. It's important. We have a finite amount of time on this earth, and we need to spend it feeling great. So if you are any of these things, you really do have a choice to make. If you're feeling tired, if you're tired of not feeling like yourself, or you're feeling lost and alone, or you're tired of just being tired, and you're tired of just not living life, you have a choice. We always have a choice. So the choice is you don't do anything about it and you just struggle on through and accept it. Or you can take control. You can choose to put yourself first, and you can really do that from today. I said at the beginning that if you wanted to kind of take this further, what you're going to learn today, or if you're inspired to take action, I really want to kind of share something with you. And this isn't about stopping doing everything you enjoy. It's about putting your needs first. It's about putting you first. So I'm so excited to invite you to and tell you about a brand new group coaching experience I have been beavering away on for the last couple of months. And I would love to tell you about it first, because I really do think this is going to transform anybody's menopause. So the program which I've been working on is called Menopause, and it is all about transformation. It's all about transforming your menopause. It will give you everything that we've talked about today and more. This is a proven 10-week immersive experience that will guide and support you through the step-by-step roadmap to transform your menopause. So this will do everything we've talked about so far, but more than that. So it will reduce your symptoms, but more than that, it will cultivate your mindset in a way that will make your menopause transition a positive one, an empowering one. It will stop the struggle. You will start to own your menopause doing this program, and you will become the wise, fearless woman that you are, but perhaps has got slightly lost at the moment. So it's about bringing that woman back out and rediscovering her. We will dive deep into rediscovering her. So you are incredible. And I think at midlife, we forget that. It will also, this program will help you really sort of release any resistance, all those things I talked about, those beliefs which might be lurking in the background, holding us back. They're all there. So it will help break some of those old patterns so that you can really expand into your amazingness and so that you can feel good. That is how we're meant to feel. And so that you can get out of life what you want to get out of life. We've got a third of our lives still to live. But also this will help you integrate those healthy habits which we talked about today. It will help you integrate those easily and forever. Just in a nutshell, if you were to join, the moment you join, you will have access to the Metamorphosis Solution Vault, which is all the doing bit. It's the bit we've talked about today. So there's lists of the supplements I recommend. There are, I've got lists of really all the phytoestrogen rich foods. There are recipes which are really phytoestrogen rich. So it has everything you need in that section. So it will save you a huge amount of time and effort and confusion of what to do. The real gold will be these weekly group live coaching calls with me. This is where the magic will really happen. There will be music, meditation, there will be laser coaching. This is where the transformation will really happen. And I just can't wait for them. And of course, you will be supported by an amazing group of women experiencing the same thing. And I think at this stage of life, we can feel so lonely. And so if you've got people who've got your back, then it will be amazing. There will be a WhatsApp group, which I will be in all the time. We will get that support. So you will get that feeling of being uplifted the whole way through this. And there'll be workbook. So we've got 6 stages of metamorphosis. So this is what I'm just so excited about this program. And these 6 stages really will guide you through this transformation to becoming the woman, this amazing woman that you are going to thrive for the next part of your life. So there you have it. I hope you found that episode helpful. And I just want to say, if you are interested in metamorphosis, then I would absolutely love to hear from you. And I'm more than happy to come on a call with you and talk about it further, or come and email me. Now, in terms of the investment for this, if you sign up before midnight on Monday, the 31st of October, Halloween, then you will get £100 off the price. Now, when it comes to investing in yourself, I just want to say this, because so many of us are notoriously rubbish at investing in ourselves, as often we can just not feel worthy enough to do it. But I just want to ask you this, depending on the severity of how you're feeling, can you afford not to? I mean, I think back to all the different things I spent money on to try and feel better when I was in the depths of my perimenopause. I mean, that all really added up. I mean, I want you just to really think of the consequences if you don't do anything about how you're feeling, and actually what could the impact be if you do. Money it's a weird one, and particularly at the moment, I mean, here in the UK, there's so much talk of, a financial crisis, and I totally get that. And I have felt very awkward about talking about, asking people for money in the past, but I've had to do a lot of work on money mindset to be able to get to a place where I feel comfortable. And now I'm so happy that I do feel comfortable about it, because I 100% believe that this program will transform your menopause from a place of something which is very negative, which is impacting negatively your life, to something extremely positive. And I just know how difficult life is otherwise, but it's about prioritizing what you choose to spend your money on. And that, so often we can spend it on stuff which is kind of all adds up, which actually doesn't feel very much, but it all adds up. And actually, what is more important than how you feel and your health? Also, I just want to say I've made it the price it is, because if it was much cheaper and you decided to invest, you're less likely to show up and take it seriously. The more we invest, the better results we get. It's like if you were to buy a really expensive jacket, you're going to really value it. You're not just going to chuck it on the floor and not look after it. You're going to hang it up. You're going to value it. Whereas if you were to buy a £5 jacket from somewhere like Primark, you don't value it in the same way, and you're not going to look after it in the same way, and you're not going to put so much into looking after it. And it's just like spending money on something like this, on something for yourself. And, if you spend a decent amount of money, you will show up and you will make the changes and you will do the things. Literally, by handing over that money, the moment you make that transaction, that's saying a massive yes to yourself. It's making a big step forward towards yourself. I know this because I've done quite a few different coaching programs in the past and quite recently. And every time I kind of hand that money over, it makes you feel a little bit sick. But you're in. Once you do it, you're in, and you get that, and you're going to get that transformation. So the question is really, how much longer are you prepared to carry on feeling how you are? Instead, how much do you actually really want to start living your life? This potentially could be the best investment you've ever made. And there is a payment plan if you really are struggling with the money. You can spread out the costs over a certain amount of time. So go and have a look at pollywarren.com/Meno, MENO. I will put it in the show notes, and really consider whether this is for you, and perhaps this is the right time for you. And if it is, I get to hang out with you for 10 weeks, and I would absolutely love that. Anyway, I hope you have a really wonderful week, and